Hi, my name is Scarlett Stones. What would you do if every affair you thought was a mistake was actually a trap set by your own spouse, filmed, planned, and used to destroy your life? What if the person you trusted most turned cheating into a weapon to take your money, your child, and your sanity? You won't believe how things went down for me. Stay with me and let me show you.
Scarlett Stones and Bruce Stones were the kind of couple people whispered about with admiration. Power, elegance, money. Everything about their marriage looked engineered for perfection. Scarlett, a former art curator turned socialite, moved through elite spaces with effortless charm. Bruce, a tech magnate with a calm, unreadable presence, rarely raised his voice and never explained his wealth. From the outside, their marriage seemed unbreakable, but beneath the tailored suits and gallery openings, something quieter was rotting. Bruce watched more than he spoke. He noticed patterns: Scarlett's hunger for validation, her fear of invisibility, her craving to be seen as extraordinary. He never confronted her. Instead, he began to plan. Revenge, he believed, was most effective when it felt like fate. What Scarlett didn't know was that her marriage had already entered its final phase, long before the first affair ever began. It started where Scarlett felt most alive, an exclusive gallery opening in Manhattan. That's where she met Leonardo Romanoff, a brooding, famous painter whose work screamed obsession and intimacy. He spoke about art the way people spoke about lovers. He saw Scarlett, or at least made her feel seen. Compliments turned into conversations, conversations into late-night studio visits. Scarlett justified it easily. Bruce was distant. Bruce was busy. Bruce wouldn't understand. What she didn't know was that Leonardo had been carefully selected. His temperament, his history with powerful women, even his attraction patterns had been analyzed. Cameras hidden in the studio captured not bodies, but moments. Hesitation, surrender, guilt. Bruce didn't want scandal yet. He wanted erosion. Each secret encounter chipped away at Scarlett's confidence, replacing desire with quiet shame. And Bruce watched it all, unseen, patient, precise. Scarlett told herself it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. But guilt, once survived, became easier to ignore. The affair with Leonardo ended abruptly, too intense, too consuming. She promised herself it would never happen again. Then came the rationalizations. Bruce didn't ask questions. He didn't suspect it. Or so she thought. His calm felt like indifference. That hurt more than anger ever could. Scarlett began to crave risk the way others craved comfort. Somewhere between charity luncheons and private dinners, she stopped seeing betrayal as a line, only as a feeling. Bruce, meanwhile, adjusted the plan. Phase 1 was complete. Scarlett had crossed a boundary on her own. That mattered. It meant everything that followed could be framed as her nature, not his design. He archived the footage, labeled, time-stamped, waiting. The second affair was quieter, more dangerous. Chris Kent, a charismatic barista with movie star looks, worked at a cafe Scarlett visited every morning. He remembered her order, asked the right questions, listened. That was the trap. Unlike Leonardo's fire, Chris offered understanding. He spoke about feeling invisible, about wasted potential. Scarlett leaned in. Confessions followed. Emotional intimacy turned visible, but the real damage happened earlier, when Scarlett began doubting her own worth without external validation. Chris reinforced her fears subtly, echoing doubts she never voiced aloud. He was paid well to do so. Bruce monitored every interaction through messages Scarlett never thought to hide. This affair didn't thrill her, it hollowed her. And that was the point. Desire was no longer the hook, dependence was. Scarlett began to change. Friends noticed. She grew anxious, uncertain, second-guessing herself in rooms she once commanded. Bruce noticed too, but he responded with concern, not suspicion. He suggested therapy, rest, balance. Each suggestion sounded loving, reasonable. Meanwhile, Chris began pulling away, just enough to trigger panic. Scarlett chased reassurance, blaming herself for his distance. She didn't see the pattern forming. 2 affairs, 2 endings, both leaving her smaller than before. Bruce began laying groundwork, quiet phone calls, confidential conversations, a therapist recommended by a friend of a friend, notes taken, records filed. Scarlett thought she was being helped. In reality, she was being documented. Her own guilt made her compliant. Her silence became evidence, and Bruce's revenge matured from observation into infrastructure. The third affair felt accidental, That made it perfect. At a private book club, Scarlett met Henry Drake, an enigmatic intellectual with a voice like calm authority. He spoke about morality, truth, and flawed protagonists. He saw Scarlett as complex, dangerous words. This time, Scarlett resisted longer. But loneliness has patience. Henry positioned himself as safe, no drama, no expectations. She believed him. What she didn't know was that Henry specialized in influence. He asked leading questions. He encouraged her to journal her thoughts, her fears, her regrets. Every page she wrote became data. Scarlett thought she was reclaiming control. In truth, she was confessing in slow motion. Bruce received weekly updates. The trap was almost complete. By now, Scarlett doubted her own memories. Conversations felt misremembered. Emails went missing. Friends recalled events differently than she did. Bruce remained steady, supportive, and concerned. When family members suggested Scarlett seemed overwhelmed, she felt attacked and ashamed for feeling that way. Henry gently implied stress could distort perception. The therapist agreed. Scarlett began wondering if the affairs were symptoms, not choices. That thought terrified her. Bruce encouraged a short separation for clarity. She agreed. Distance, she hoped, would help. Instead, it isolated her further. Every decision she made now appeared impulsive on paper. Every emotion was pathologized. Bruce never lied. He just curated the truth. The medical report arrived quietly. Emotional instability exacerbated by impulsive behavior. Scarlett read it twice, then a third time. She didn't recognize herself in its language, but the signature was real. The letterhead is legitimate. Bruce held her hand as she cried. He told her this didn't change how he saw her. He just wanted to protect their future and their child. That word landed hard. Custody. Scarlett hadn't considered it. She began compiling her own notes, trying to piece together when everything shifted. Patterns emerged too late. Every affair, every ending, too aligned, too convenient. Suspicion flickered, but doubt crushed it. What if this really was her fault? Scarlett considered confronting Bruce. Then she imagined how it would sound. Paranoid, defensive, unstable. The evidence she had was intuition and guilt. Bruce, meanwhile, prepared for court. Videos edited carefully, messages framed selectively. He didn't need to invent her affairs. He only needed to define them. Scarlett's reputation unraveled in whispers. Invitations stopped. Friends chose distance. Bruce became the grieving husband, burdened by loyalty. Scarlett became the risk. Alone, she rewatched her life like footage out of sequence. Something was wrong. She felt it in her bones, and for the first time, she stopped blaming herself and started writing everything down. Scarlett bought a black notebook and wrote a single line on the first page for the prosecutor. She didn't know if anyone would ever read it, but she knew silence had nearly destroyed her. Page by page, she documented timelines, names, coincidences. Leonardo, Chris, Henry. Each connection sharpened the picture. Bruce wasn't reacting to her betrayal. He was orchestrating it. The realization didn't bring relief. It brought fear. Because if she was right, then the man she married had turned her worst mistakes into weapons and aimed them at her life. The custody hearing loomed. Bruce smiled more now. Scarlett wrote faster. Time was running out. The custody hearing unfolded like a performance Bruce had rehearsed for years. He didn't attack Scarlett. He sympathized with her. He spoke softly about love, responsibility, and concern. His lawyers presented timelines, expert opinions, and patterns of impulsive behavior. Scarlett listened as her own life was reframed into a clinical narrative. The affairs weren't described as betrayals, but as symptoms. Videos were played without sound, carefully selected moments of hesitation, secrecy, retreat, context stripped away. Scarlett tried to explain, but explanations sounded like excuses. Every word she spoke seemed to confirm the version of her already prepared for the room. She realized then that truth wasn't enough, not when someone else controlled the order of facts. What hurt more than the ruling were the witnesses. People Scarlett had trusted, friends, colleagues, even a cousin, spoke about changes they'd noticed. Each statement felt harmless alone. Together, they built a portrait of instability. Scarlett recognized the phrases. She'd heard them before. Henry's questions, the therapist's language, Bruce's gentle suggestions echoed through every testimony. None of them lied outright. They simply remembered what they'd been encouraged to notice. Scarlett understood too late how perception could be engineered. When the judge adjourned for deliberation, Scarlett felt emptied. Not angry, not shocked, just reduced to an outline someone else had drawn. The ruling avoided condemnation. That was the cruelty of it. Scarlett wasn't labeled unfit, only temporarily unsuitable. Custody was granted to Bruce in the child's best interest. Supervised visits, mandatory evaluations. Time. The word echoed in her head. Time is what Bruce had used against her. As cameras flashed outside the courthouse, Bruce shielded his face with humility. Scarlett stood alone. Online headlines framed the story as tragedy, not betrayal. Sympathy poured in for him. That night, Scarlett returned to an apartment that no longer felt like hers. She opened the notebook and wrote until her hand cramped. This wasn't revenge, it was preservation. Scarlett began reconstructing her past like an investigator. Phone records, calendar entries, gallery guest lists, coffee receipts. Patterns emerged with disturbing clarity. Each man appeared during moments of vulnerability Bruce had quietly noted. Each exit coincided with pressure points, family visits, business stress, emotional fatigue. Even the book club had been suggested by Bruce himself. Coincidence collapsed into design. Scarlett felt sick, not at the affairs, but at the realization that her worst decisions had been guided. She wasn't absolving herself, she was reclaiming agency. For the first time, the shame loosened its grip. What replaced it was something colder. Focus. Bruce had accounted for emotion, not obsession. Scarlett's need to understand became relentless. She tracked down Leonardo's former manager, Chris's acting coach, Henry's publishing connections. Money flowed through shell accounts, clean, legal, forgettable. But repetition leaves fingerprints. A consulting firm appeared again and again. Scarlett documented everything, annotating connections with dates and motives. She didn't rush. Bruce's greatest advantage had been patience. She learned from him. Every night she added to the notebook. Every page made her calmer. She wasn't planning a confrontation. She was building inevitability.
Scarlett withdrew from public life. That worried Bruce. Silence had once worked in his favor, but now it felt different. He offered help, suggested reconciliation talks. Scarlett declined politely. She played the role assigned to her, reflective, compliant, subdued. Behind the scenes, she consulted quietly. Not lawyers yet, archivists, financial analysts, a retired investigator who specialized in coercive control. He didn't flinch when she spoke, he just nodded. This wasn't a crime of passion, he said. It was architecture. Scarlett slept better that night than she had in years. Bruce made one mistake. He grew confident. During a private conversation, he referenced a detail Scarlett had never shared, something written only in her journal during the book club phase. She said nothing, just nodded, but the moment burned into her memory. That night, she marked the page with a red tab. Proof wasn't always documents. Sometimes it was timing. Sometimes it was knowledge no one should have. The notebook thickened. Scarlett began drafting a cover letter, not emotional, not accusatory, just factual. Names, dates, methods. She titled it simply, Statement. Understanding didn't bring peace. It brought grief. Scarlett mourned the life she thought she had, the man she believed Bruce was. She accepted her role in the affairs without self-destruction. Accountability didn't mean submission, it meant clarity. She visited her child during supervised hours, smiling through the ache. Bruce watched her closely now. He sensed a shift. Predators recognized stillness. Scarlett wasn't waiting for rescue. She was choosing timing. Revenge, she realized, wasn't about pain. It was about exposure. Scarlett made copies, digital and physical. She distributed them strategically to a journalist known for long investigations, to a legal advocacy group, to a safety deposit box under a different name. She didn't threaten Bruce. She didn't warn him. That would ruin the purity of it. Her final notebook entry wasn't about him. It was about truth surviving manipulation. She sealed the envelope and labeled it clearly, the same words as the notebook. This time, typed. Calm, unemotional, ready. Scarlett mailed the package on a quiet morning. No dramatic music, no goodbye speech. Just routine. As she walked away from the mailbox, she felt lighter. Not victorious, not relieved, but complete. Whatever happened next would no longer be controlled by him alone. Bruce would wake up to a normal day, unaware that his perfect narrative had already begun to unravel. Scarlett returned home, opened a fresh notebook, and wrote a single sentence. This story is no longer mine to protect.
We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories. Have a good one.